Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mimi. Are you preparing for an Excel assessment test as a data analyst for entry level? In this video, I'm going to be walking you through how you can be successful in that interview. There are different kinds of Excel assessment out there, but this video is going to give you a solid background on what you could expect from interviewers, how you can be able to translate the question they're asking you into Excel formulas, in knowing what kind of formulas to use to solve the different questions that you have been asked. I'm going to be doing this series in bringing different common interview questions that you might be asked for Excel. Stay tuned. Alright, let's get started. So this is the instruction that we've been given here. We've been told that we can only use formulas, and this is the Excel data that we'll be working with. So let me go back to the instruction. So the first instruction says, highlight all employees who have left the company in red, and those that are still active, we need to put them in green. So let's go back to the data. And here we can see that we have an employment status here. I'm going to click on this and I'll go to conditional formatting. I'll go to new rule and I'll go to format only cell that contain. I'm going to click this drop down to set it to equal. So we want those that are active. So I'm going to start with active. I'll click this format. We want to pick color green. So you go to fill right here and then you click green, this green color, and say OK. And we click OK. We can see now all the active ones are now in green. Let's do the same thing for those that have been terminated. I'll click here and go back to conditional formatting. I'll go to new rule. I'll go to format. And right here, I'm going to click equal to. And now I'm going to type in terminated. Terminated. I'll click format so we can pick a color. And I'm going to click red. Say OK. And I'll click OK. So we can see everyone that is terminated, they are all red now. Let's go back to the instruction. Now that we're done with the first one, I'm going to highlight this in green. So we're done. The next one says shows employee from oldest to youngest and show male first. So I'll go back to the data. We want to sort this column. We have age column and we have gender column. So I'm going to highlight this too. I'll go to right here where it says sort and filter. I'm going to do a custom sort because now we have to sort by two columns. I'll click custom. Let's say sort by, let's start off with the age. Age, the cell value, we want from the oldest to the youngest. So oldest to the youngest. So that will be largest to smallest. Now we also want to sort by gender. So I'm going to click this add level and I'm going to say gender. Gender, we say we want the male first. So that means we want to sort it Z to A. I'll click OK. So now we can see we've sorted this age and then by gender. Let's go back to the instruction. We're done with this. I'm going to highlight. Next one says remove employees who were hired in 2012. Let's go back to the data. Right here, we don't have hire year. We only have hire date. So that means that we have to create a hire year column. To do that, I'm going to right click on this column, employment status. I'm going to click insert so that we can insert a new column. I'm going to give it a title. So the title will be hired year. And I'm going to write a formula. We want to be able to extract the year from this column. To do that, put your cursor here and click equals. Start typing year. We want to extract the year, so we will use the year function and double click it. Where do we want it to extract the year? We want it to extract here from this hire date. So I'm going to click here. I'll close the parentheses. I'll hit enter. Now we can see that Excel is showing us a date. We don't want it to be a date. We know this has to be a number. We're expecting to see 2022 here. So to do that, I'm going to click here and then instead of date, I'm going to change this to number. So now we see 2022. We don't want to see this dot 00. So we're going to get rid of the the 00 here by clicking this 2 times. So now we can drag the formula all through. So we can see that this person was hired in June 2010. Okay, let's go back to the instruction. It says that we need to remove employees who were hired in 2012. So now that we have the year, we need to now remove those that were hired in 2012. So I'm going to go here where it says filter, sort and filter. I'm going to click filter. Now we want to remove 2012, so I'll click here. I'll look for 2012. I see it here. Click select all, click 2012 and click OK. This will give us everyone that was hired in 2012. So the next thing that we want to remove all of them. So I'm going to highlight all of this, highlight everything, and right click and say delete rows. Okay, so now we can remove the filter by going here and say clear filter. So we can see everybody now. Let's go back to the instruction. We're done with this one. The next one says replace blank position with unknown. In the data tab, let's go to the data tab. We see some people do not have a position. We want to replace all those blank. We want to replace with unknown. So a way to do this, since we've been told that we can only use formulas, is to create a new column. So I'm going to create a new column by right clicking here and say insert. I'm going to call this position. And then here, we want to check if this column is blank, then we want to say it's unknown. If it is not blank, then we want to use whatever value within this column. So here, let's go back here and let's start typing our formula. So I'll say equals. So we need to use the if function. If function checks for a condition. So if we start typing if, you see here, you can double click. If what? We want to check if this column, so click it, if it is equal to blank, double quote. If it's equal to blank, we want it to put unknown. So we put it in quotes and say unknown. We'll close the quote. If it is not blank, we want it to use the actual value that is here. So we'll say comma. If it is not blank, then use this value. We'll close the parentheses and we hit enter. We can see that this is not blank, so we put the value here. I'm going to drag the formula down. You can see these two are blank. It says unknown. Okay, now that we're done with this, before we go back to the instruction page, we don't want to have two position value here. We don't want to keep this one. So a way to do that is to put your cursor here, right click and say copy. Now that you've copied, right click again and say paste values. We want to paste the values. So say paste values. Now we can delete this one. Right click and delete. Okay, so let's go back here. We are done with this one. Highlight in green. The next one says combine the first name and the last name. So I go back here. The first name and the last name, they're right here. So what we need to do here, let's expand this so we can see it, is to make a new column here. So I'm going to right click and say insert. Since we want to combine this, I'm going to name this full name. Call it full name. We want to combine those two. Let's start typing our formula. So we say equals. We're going to use the concat function. Concat function combines something together. So let's say concat. We can double click here or you can hit tab on your computer. We want to concat this value, comma. We want to have a space between it, so this will be where Damon with a space. So after the comma, put a quote, put a space, and put a quote, and close. Put a comma, and then click here and close the parentheses. Hit enter. We can see now that this is combined. So we're going to drag this down by double clicking here, and we can see that everybody now has a full name. Okay, now let's go back to the instruction. I'm going to highlight this as done. The next one says expand all columns at once. All columns at once. We can see that some of this, we don't see all this right here. We want to expand all of them. You can do it one by one by dragging this, but the fastest way is to highlight all your columns right here, and you go here, right click. Right here you see column width. Click it. You can set the width that you want. So for example, we can make this width of 15 and click OK. See, now everything has expanded. Okay. All right. We're done with that. Let's go back to the instruction. I'm going to highlight this as green. Now it says, how many female operators do we have? It says, write the formula in cell M7 in bold. So let's go back to the data. How many female operators do we have? We can see it says we should write the formula in M7. So this is column M and this is 7. So right here, we need to write the formula here. So it says how many female operators do we have? Meaning that we have to check those two columns to know how many people fit into this category. So in this cell right here, let's start typing equals. We're going to use a formula called count ifs. Ifs because we have multiple conditions. So I'll say count ifs and click tab. So the first one is we want to check if this person is a female. So you click this, you say comma. So we put in quotes, we want to check for female. We'll close the quote and we say comma. We want to check this column as well. If this column is an operator, so put comma, quote, operator, and we'll close the quote, we'll close the parentheses, and we'll hit enter. Right now we can see that we have 6, and the instructions say we should put this in bold. So I'm going to go here and click bold. So we have 6 operators that are female. Let's go back to the instruction. I'm going to highlight this screen. The other one says, how many male paralegal are currently active? How many male paralegal are currently active? Let's go to the assessment. I'm going to put it in the next column here. How many male paralegal are currently active? So that means that we have to check the gender, the position, and we also have to check the employment status. So we will still use count ifs because we have multiple conditions. So I'm going to type equal count ifs, and then I need to check this. Click it, comma. We need to look for male in this case, male, comma. I need to check the position. Click it here, comma. We want to check for paralegal. So for paralegal, we put it in quotes, paralegal, quote, comma. We want to check if they are active. So we click this employment status, comma, say active, quotes, and we close the parentheses. See, we have 17 of them. Okay, let's go back to the instruction. I'm going to highlight this as green. Next one says turn the data into a table. So all our data right here, let's turn it into a table. To do that, anywhere here, just click anywhere in your data and do Control T, and this will ask you if your table has headers. Yes for us. I'll click OK, and now we have a table. Okay, let's go to the instruction. This is complete. The last step says that we should rename the sheet to company employee data. So let's go back here. I'm going to double click this and say company employee data. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like it, and I'm going to be bringing more of this video on how you can better prepare for your assessment test. I will see you in my next video. Bye.